Have you ever looked down on someone because they had nothing, only to realize years later they became everything you ever wanted? Well, this story will teach you why you should never despise humble beginnings. Because the same man Ada mocked for being poor came back years later, not just rich, but a billionaire whose name echoed across the nation. So, before you judge anyone by what they have today, listen carefully to this story. Once upon a time in modern day Nigeria, in a small but buzzing town called Egbida, lived a young woman named Ada. She was beautiful, the kind of beauty that made men pause mid-conversation. Her skin glowed like new money, her smile could melt hearts, and her confidence made her stand out wherever she went. Ada came from a middle-class family. Her father was a retired teacher, her mother a trader. They lived modestly but happily. However, Ada always dreamed bigger. She used to say, "I won't marry any broke man. I deserve comfort, cars, and a mansion in Lekki." Her mother often warned her, "Ada, don't let pride blind your heart. Sometimes wealth comes in dirty clothes." But Ada would laugh, "Mommy, I can't love a man who takes cake. Love doesn't pay bills." One day, Ada met Tunde, a humble young man who worked as a mechanic apprentice near her street. Tunde was poor, yes, but hardworking, respectful, and full of dreams. Every morning he woke up at 5 a.m. to sweep the workshop and spent long hours fixing engines under the hot Lagos sun. He liked Ada from the first day he saw her carrying a bag of groceries home. He offered to help, but she looked at him with disgust. Still, he didn't give up. He greeted her kindly every day, smiled even when she ignored him, and sometimes left small notes on her gate saying, "I believe in your smile." One day, he gathered the courage to talk to her properly. "Ada," he said, nervously cleaning the grease off his hands, "I know I don't have much, but I promise I'll work hard to build a good life. Will you give me a chance?" Ada stared at him for a moment, then burst out laughing. "You, a mechanic? You want to date me?" she scoffed. He nodded, his eyes sincere. She hissed, "Abeg, shift. I can't be with someone who smells of engine oil. Look at your clothes. How can I introduce you to my friends?" Her words pierced Tunde's heart like a blade. But instead of arguing, he smiled sadly and said, "I understand. But one day, Ada, you'll remember these words. Not because I want revenge, but because life has a way of humbling us all." He walked away that day with tears in his eyes and a burning determination in his heart. Tunde decided that if poverty made him unworthy, then wealth would make him visible. He started saving every naira he could from his small earnings. At night, when others slept, he watched YouTube videos about automobile design, business management, and innovation. He was obsessed with learning. 3 years later, he applied for a government entrepreneurship grant and used the money to start a small car repair shop with two friends. They called it T&T Motors. They worked hard, stayed honest, and soon started attracting big clients. One day, an expatriate visited their workshop to fix his car and was impressed by Tunde's skills and humility. That man connected him to investors who were interested in funding a Nigerian automobile startup. That was the beginning of Tunde Tech Motors Limited, a company that revolutionized affordable electric cars in Africa. Within 7 years, Tunde's name was on the cover of Forbes Africa. His face appeared on TV. He became one of the youngest billionaires in the country, known for his innovation and kindness. But through all the success, he never forgot Ada's words, "You smell of engine oil." And deep inside, he made a silent promise, not to prove her wrong, but to show the world that greatness can rise from the dust. If you're loving this story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon because we share stories every week that remind you never look down on anyone. Now, let's continue. Years passed. Ada's beauty remained, but her dreams didn't quite go as planned. She dated several rich men, flashy ones, who drove exotic cars and spent money like water, but none stayed. Some used her, others cheated, and a few simply vanished after making promises of marriage. By the time Ada turned 31, reality had humbled her. Her parents were aging, her job paid little, and the same friends who once envied her were now married and happy. One afternoon, while scrolling through Instagram, she saw a post trending. Meet Tunde Adebayo, the billionaire CEO behind Nigeria's first locally made electric car. Her heart skipped. She zoomed into the picture. And there he was, the same Tunde she once rejected, now wearing an expensive suit, standing beside governors and celebrities. Her chest tightened. "It can't be," she whispered. A few weeks later, a new luxury car company announced they were opening a showroom in Lagos and they were hiring brand managers. Ada applied immediately, praying silently that she'd at least get to meet him again, even if he didn't remember her. To her surprise, she got called for an interview. When she arrived at the office, the receptionist ushered her into a grand room. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air. Then the door opened. Tunde walked in, tall, confident, radiant, with that same calm smile. Ada froze. Her mind screamed, "Please don't recognize me." But he did. He smiled warmly. "Ada, long time. You look well." Her knees went weak. "Tunde, you remember me?" "Of course," he said softly. "How could I forget?" He gestured for her to sit. She stumbled into the chair, speechless. After a few moments of awkward silence, she whispered, "You've done so well for yourself." He smiled. "Hey, by God's grace. Life is funny, isn't it?" She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "Tunde, I'm sorry for how I treated you. I was a foolish." He looked at her with gentle eyes and said, "Ada, I forgave you long ago. I learned that rejection is sometimes God's redirection." He paused, then added, "You taught me something valuable, that I don't need anyone's approval to become who I'm meant to be." Ada didn't get the job, not because Tunde was cruel, but because he wanted her to find her own path. He later sent her a message. "Ada, I believe you're strong enough to rebuild your life. Don't let your past define your future. Use it to grow." Those words sank deep. Ada started a small fashion brand from her home. It wasn't easy, but she stayed consistent. And though she never became rich, she found something far more valuable: peace. One day, she attended a business seminar, and Tunde was the keynote speaker. When he saw her in the audience, he smiled and said, "Never despise small beginnings. The person you reject today might become your helper tomorrow. Always treat people with kindness, because life has a way of turning tables." The crowd clapped. Ada smiled through her tears. She finally understood that love and success aren't measured by what someone has, but by what they carry inside. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Subscribe, because every week we bring you real, life-changing stories that remind you what you give to others always comes back to you. And remember, never look down on anyone. God can raise dust into diamonds.